'Cause you know what, Doctor? You were my doctor. For the days yet to come, all my love to long ago. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Children in Need short, Time Crash, written by Stephen Moffat and is directed by Graham Harper. That fact would be more prominent as Graham Harper directed the final story in the Fifth Doctor era, The Caves of Androzani. Why is that important? Well, you see, this story, this Small Children in Need special, is a multi-Doctor story featuring Peter Davison's return as the Fifth Doctor. As a nerd boy, that was incredible. I mean, a lot of people had already noticed that David Tennant's portrayal of the 10th Doctor has many influences taken from the 5th Doctor. They're very similar in their personalities and their traits, and it's something that I have stated in my Christmas Invasion, I think it was, or was it New Earth, that one of my issues with the 10th, well, not really an issue, but something that I can nitpick about the 10th Doctor is that, for me anyway, really all I can see is that they've just taken the 10th and the 5th Doctor, mainly the 5th Doctor, and then just, like, that's the 10th Doctor, really. But that's like a nitpick, and so I feel it's then extremely fitting that the 5th Doctor would then carry out a multi-Doctor story. For those of you wondering, the 5th Doctor and the 10th Doctor would later meet again in audio drama format. I can't remember what's it called. Wink is the... Out of Time is the 4th Doctor. Wink is the 6th Doctor. The 5th one, which might be out by the time this video comes out. I'm making these videos in February, so I can't remember anything about it, and it's not out yet, which is why I'm not going to be talking about it. But I will be talking about one of those crossovers, but I'm getting in my head of myself. And so yeah, though they'll meet up probably like a main feature-length story, but for now, Children in Need, the charity event, who have previously hosted Doctor Who shorts, specifically the Pudsey Cutaway, the one that ties into the Christmas Invasion. This one is kind of like an epilogue to the stories of Last of the Time Lords, and is kind of a prologue to Voyage of the Damned, as this story takes place, get this, at the end of Last of the Time Lords, but not right at the end where we have that cliffhanger. No, it takes place moments, literally like a minute, maybe like seconds before the cliffhanger. And what this story tries to imply is that when Martha leaves and before the Titanic hits the TARDIS, this event comes forth, which means that the canonical reality of this story was up in the air until Stephen Moffat became showrunner, and this is actually one of the few stories that the BBC has confirmed is canonical. So, or is canonical to the revived series. So, yeah, this story is canon. Get over it. I mean, everybody loves this story. Speaking of which, when I talk about like the fans' appraisal of this is a very loved aspect, and some consider it one of Stephen Moffat's best work. A lot of his issues, something which would become a prominent issue in his when Stephen Moffat becomes showrunner, do kind of pop their heads around here, where we have loads of jokes and a lot of references to the classic series. But because this is not really a story, it's a short little episode, no real villain, no real thing, it's just two doctors interacting with each other, then I feel like that's the heart, that's the soul of the story. It's just the two interaction, and we can have all of these fun little nods and Easter eggs. And I feel as well, because the David Tennant, for those of you who don't know, was actually a fanboy. In fact, prior to getting the role, he has said on multiple occasions that the reason he became an actor is because he was such a huge fan of the British television series Doctor Who. Like, David Tennant is technically like the ultimate nerd. Like, that is just incredible. So my guess is that, you know, he knew about the Peter Davison's incarnation, and he took many inspirations from his role. So there's kind of this loving feeling of somebody, not in just in the story, but in like real life as well, meeting their heroes, and there's just something warm about this story. I just realised I've talked about how much like this story, how good this story is. I haven't actually gone into the story itself. Essentially, and actually, I think it actually kind of explains how the Titanic got there at the end of some Last of the Time Lords, because this story mentions that the TARDIS is being repaired at the moment after being cannibalized by the Master, but the Doctor forgot to put his shields up, and which is causing the events of this story. The Doctor forgot to put his shields up whilst the TARDIS is in flight, and it crash landed with the 1980s TARDIS, allowing the Fifth Doctor to come in this adventure and interact with the 10th Doctor. And that kind of explains as well how the Titanic got involved. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? And so we get then the 10th Doctor and the 5th Doctor interacting. It's also really cool to see Peter Davison's name in the opening credits in the revived series. This is also the last appearance of the original revived series theme song. This would be the last time we hear it. When when the show comes back on Christmas that year, Murray Gold would have composed a completely new theme song for the series, which would continue on to the end of the Russell T Davies era. So that's really cool. Now, Peter Davison is obviously a lot older than he is in his from his TV counterpart, and some of you might even remember that when I talked about audio dramas featuring the Fifth Doctor, you might remember me mentioning that he's a little bit more grumpier. He plays the Doctor a little bit more, not like darker, but more like William Hartnell in a sense. So he's a lot more grumpy and a lot more louder than he is in his TV portrayal. The Fifth Doctor was already a grumpy character. Despite him getting this reputation as being one of the nicest and kindest doctors, he does have a grumpy demeanour about him when pushed. But here, Peter Davison gets to kind of show his age, as the script basically allows him to be this grumpy persona, because he doesn't believe that the 10th Doctor is him to begin with. He doesn't know how this person got into his TARDIS, and he initially believes that this Doctor is a fan. Basically, like, that's part of the humour. It's like the 10th Doctor's trying to convince the 5th that he's him. But he's like, okay, you're my biggest fan. Okay, listen, I run around the universe. It's not my fault that people recognise me and start up their little groups. That Linda lot. The 5th Doctor knows who Linda are. Linda, the group from Love and Monsters. One of the most hated episodes of the entire series. The one that nearly cancelled the revived series. And they mention it? And that the 5th Doctor knows who Linda are? That's just mental. The humour in this story is the main selling point. This story is incredibly funny, and it plays to Stephen Moffat's strengths as a comedic writer, because for those of you who for those of you who don't know, Stephen Moffat, before taking on Doctor Who, was mainly known for his comedy shows, not comedy, but very like light-hearted shows, and also at one point from his own mouth, he has the record for the most gay jokes in Doctor Who. There is a gay joke in this story in which the Doctor, the 10th Doctor, basically mentions that the Master has returned in his life, and the 5th Doctor is like, does he still have that rubbish beard? No beard. Well, a wife. That is a reference to the word the beard. Can also be a term describing a woman who marries a man to hide the fact that he's a homosexual. So that was kind of like the joke that the master is gay, and I don't know if that's aged well. Like, I haven't heard anybody criticising it, but other times when Stephen Moffat has made jokes like that, I have heard it criticised. I don't know if that's because this one goes under the radar, or whether generally, like, there's nothing really offensive there. Like, I don't know whether, like, beard, the term beard is a bad thing. I mean, I don't know, I'm not qualified to talk about that kind of subject, but but anyway, the main focal point is the humour between the 10th and the 5th Doctors, and also you get, well, something I really love about this, like, there's so much, like, small little elements, and it's just the fact that, like, there's so much effort clearly put into this short, no budget. Basically, all the budget is gone to bring Peter Davison back in his comic accurate, in his 80s accurate costume. Like, one thing that I really praise this story for, one of my favourite details about this, is the music. When the 10th Doctor is being all quirky and talkative, it plays music traditionally around his era. But when the 5th Doctor's talking, when the 5th Doctor's being pedantic, it plays music that sounds like from his era. I'm not sure if they've used archive music from his era, or Murray Gold composed new music to sound like his era. But that's just one little detail about this story that I just absolutely adore. Like, that is just, like, incredible. I love that little the fact, you know, I like musical consistencies in my TV shows and movies, something which you can criticize Marvel for, but we're talking about Doctor Who. And you can kind of get this feeling like the 10th Doctor, he is just flabbergasted. He is loving every moment of this. It's like, oh my god, you're me in the past, and look at you, you're just like all perfect and stuff. Sure, you're not supposed to be here, and like, you being here means the entire universe could implode, but look at you, it's incredible. Whilst the 5th Doctor, maybe being influenced by the fact that now he's older, it's just like, can you please just shut up and let me get on with it? In terms of the aging, this story actually gives an explanation on why when an older Doctor meets a recent Doctor, why the older Doctor seems to have aged as well. According to the 10th Doctor, it shortens out the time differential, which is sci-fi mumbo jumbo, but from the wording, it kind of sounds like when two Doctors meet, their biology of the older one matches up so that the timelines don't like splinter and cause events like Mondred Undead. Ages the Doctor to the point where if the Doctor never regenerated, if the Doctor didn't die, then they would have looked like this now. If that makes any sense? Probably not, but if the 5th Doctor never regenerated, he never died, and he was just allowed to age, he would then look like this when he would have met Martha. And because now he's met with the 10th Doctor, the time differential shortened out. And so the band of aging kind of shortened out. If that makes any sense? That's that's what the term means in my head. That's what I kind of picture it. But I could be completely wrong. It might actually be a scientific term. I'm not quite sure. It's a really small detail. But the fact that they add it, given an explanation on why Doctor's age, just seems like something that you wouldn't really think about, really. Like, most people would just be happy with the fact that Peter Davison has returned. But the fact that they have to add that in is great props to Stephen Moffat. Something else I want to give props to is Graham Harper. Despite the fact that clearly this story has very little budget, with only David Tennant and Peter Davison, not excluding archive footage of Free Magma from her cliffhanger, from her ending at the end of Last of the Time Lords, which gets reused here. The story only also takes place in the TARDIS, so we only have one set, our main star, and a guest actor, and that's all you have, and that's basically all the budget we got. But Graham Harper gives this story its own feel, its own energy. Like, I can't think of any other story that looks like this. I mean, it's still very much Doctor Who. The lighting is all very Doctor Who. The camera setups are all like Doctor Who, but there's still a visual intent there. And Graham Harper does a fantastic job at, even though he has very limited stuff to work with in terms of bringing a variety in terms of visuals in his story, he does a pretty good job. And this story comes off looking clean cut, well executed, and just overall, just a very enjoyable time. And so, because of the events of the two TARDISes of merging, this will cause an implosion, with the joke being that, all the time it's like, an explosion that can destroy the entire universe, it'll destroy the world. In here, it'll destroy the exact size of Belgium, which is not only funny, but it's actually a reference to the Douglas Adams novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the joke is that in every other civilization apart from Earth, Belgium is considered a swear word. So, I don't know if you needed to know that, but that's a nice little fact on this story. And the fifth Doctor's basically panicking, he's worrying, and he's tinkering away with the TARDIS to try and stop this implosion. We get a nice little moment in which the 10th Doctor asks, do you want to use up my sonic screwdriver? The fifth Doctor's like, no thanks, and 10 is like, oh no, that's right, you didn't like using a sonic screwdriver. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm the Doctor, I can fix the universe with a kettle and string, and look at me, I'm wearing a vegetable. Because the fifth Doctor wore a vegetable, and nobody except for John Nathan Turner knows why. I mean, that was actually explained in Case of Androzani, but in terms of a creative choice during the start of the Peter Davison era, like, it was such a weird visual motif of the fifth Doctor. But this, I find, I don't know if it's odd, but the idea of the fifth Doctor not wanting to use a sonic screwdriver, refusing to use a sonic screwdriver, I find it's really odd, because the reason why the fifth Doctor doesn't use a sonic screwdriver that much is because it was destroyed earlier on in his era. It was destroyed during his first series story, The Visitation, which wasn't even the finale of that story. So he had a majority of his time without the sonic screwdriver until, in terms of the TV continuity, the sonic screwdriver would just appear again in the TV movie. With no explanation as to why and how he got a new sonic screwdriver in that story. So there's that. So I do kind of find it odd that he refuses to use a sonic screwdriver here. But obviously the joke is, he didn't use a sonic screwdriver. And so the 10th Doctor, he basically helps the 5th Doctor by doing all this technical stuff, which sounds like to the 5th Doctor, but it will make an implosion which will destroy the TARDIS, killing them both. But the 10th Doctor is reassurance that this will not be the end. He knows, and it's here when it clicks after the 10th Doctor saves, does it and saves everything. Does it click? You did that because you remember me watching you doing that. You only knew what to do because I saw you did it. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. So yeah, and then we get the loving moment, which appears in almost every multi-Doctor story of the Doctors. It's like, it's been fun working with you, but now we've got to say goodbye. And I don't think it's any controversial here. It's easily the best departing of Doctors in the entire legacy of multi-Doctor stories. Don't get me wrong, the one in the 5th Doctors is really good. The one in the 3 Doctors was okay, but you can clearly see, the focus was on the rest of the story. And even later on, we have some great moments. But here, because it really feels like the rumor was always that David Tennant wrote the script, at least his last lines. That's been proven to be false. It was all Stephen Moffat. But you can just feel that in the script, there's so much admiration for Peter Davison's Doctor. The love, the good spirit of just like, I am here now because of you, so thank you. As the 10th Doctor basically rolls out all of the things that make their Doctor so similar, with the shoes, with the squeaky voice when things start tensing up. I still do that, yes. And he puts on the brainy specs, something which was actually started off with the 5th Doctor. And then we get the line which I actually quoted at the start of the video, which is, you know what, Doctor? You were my Doctor. I know he didn't write that. I know the rumours are false and David Tennant didn't write that. But you can feel, you look at his face, you look at the way he says it. That is not the 10th Doctor speaking. That is David Tennant just being like, you are a legend. You are my childhood hero. And if it wasn't for you showing that like this type of Doctor could be around, this young adventuring Doctor, comparing to like the previous 4 Doctors, then I wouldn't be here. Thank you. And Peter Davison has that line where it's like, today's yet to come, basically stating it's like, from his point of view, he can't wait to look forward to being that 10th Doctor. But it's also like Peter Davison like going, it's like, thank you so much. The legacy of Doctor Who is still continuing with you. You are keeping the flame burning, and you, just like me, are well deserving of being the Doctor. It's just perfect. It's just that is one of my favourite scenes in the entire series. It's the 5th and 10th Doctor saying goodbye to each other, and you can just feel the admiration. It's the perfect blend of script and acting. I won't even say acting, of people, of personalities, of David Tennant and Peter Davison. Which, David Tennant is Peter Davison's son-in-law. However, when this story was made, that wasn't the case. Because at this point, I don't think David Tennant has met Georgia Moffat yet. Georgia Moffat would be David Tennant's partner later on. She would make an appearance as the Doctor's daughter, which is a meta reference, which we'll get onto that when we talk about the episode Doctor's Daughter. So that's all there to talk about. And so that is Time Crash, and it's one of my favourite little details. Like I said, the ending where the Doctors say goodbye to each other is one of my favourite moments in the entire series. And you can just feel that Stephen Moffat, that David Tennant, that Peter Davison, that Graham Harper just absolutely adore this show. And it really shows just how much these people can do with just so little as well. And I wish this story was like an episode long. I feel like what we're working here was so good that we could have made a full episode out of this. But nothing ever feels like it's been cut here. Everything feels to fit in, and that even though it's really short, and I wish we had a longer experience with the 10th and the 5th Doctors, it never feels like everything's been shoved in. We get perfect amount of time. It feels perfect. It's just absolutely perfect. And the only thing that's really stopping me from putting this in my top 10, my top 20 is the fact is that, it's really short. But it's still one of the greatest things that I have ever come to witness as a Doctor Who fan. So there you go. That's Time Crash. Just so cool just seeing these two Doctors interacting. So join me next time where the Doctor has the TARDIS crash into Titanic. But is it the real Titanic? And who is controlling the angels? So join me next time for Voyage of the Damned, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!